Sometimes you just don't understand the impact that you've made upon other people until you tell them goodbye, or better yet, they tell you goodbye. Like to welcome you to another episode of the Fire Forge Leader podcast. I told you last week things were going to look different for a little bit. This is one of them. I'm having to improvise this week. I'm doing this podcast from my car. You can probably tell that if you're watching it on video. But the audio's not going to be as good either. And this is just temporary. I was having some internet issues because of weather, because of my computer, whatever. But I'm not in my studio. And this is what we get this week. I hope you enjoy.
Leaders are not born in a womb. They are forged through heat, pressure, and a whole lot of sweat. The Fire Forge Leader podcast serves the audience through exploring leadership at work, in the community, and with the family, using a practical perspective and real-life experiences from the host, Steve Baumgartner, and his guests in the Forge. Now, it's time to enter the Forge with the Fire Forged Leader.
This one is going to be very unscripted. And I want to let everybody know that up front. I'm going to speak from my heart this week because, well, quite frankly, it's been kind of a rough week for this guy. I've only been working at the plant that I had been working at for about 2.5 years. In 2.5 years, you don't always understand the impact that's made with the people that you're leading, made with your peers, with your coworkers, with everybody that you're around. But this last week or two, since I told everybody the news, I had each and every one of those people come to my office at different times. They came to my office to tell me goodbye. Some of them simply would share a story, a funny story or something that impacted them. Some, the man that I've talked about before, my right-hand man at the plant, he came up and he said, we don't talk about feelings much in this industry. And that's true. But he goes, I wanted to let you know that I'm really going to miss you. I had other people come and stand inside of my doorway and fight back tears when they said goodbye. I also had people come into my office and tell me how much of an impact on their family that I made through my leadership. And that's what we're here for, leaders. That's what we're here for, is to make those impacts, and to really help the people who are doing all that hard work that makes us look successful, right? They're out there doing that hard work. And our job is to make their lives better, to impact their lives in some way. And it's not always in the office. It's not always on the plant floor. Sometimes it's by allowing them to have a seat in our office and have a conversation and talk about our personal lives. I know that got taboo for a long time, but we have to have those open conversations. We have to be vulnerable with our employees, with our coworkers, our peers, all of that. And if that wasn't hard enough, Thursday night, the professor at the gym had me stand up and have a speech to the group of men that I do jiu-jitsu with. that I roll on the mats with, that I share parts of my life that I don't share with anybody else. And I broke down. I broke down looking at these guys. But I broke down even more as those guys shared a lot of the same sorts of things with me. I had one guy call me up, and, I've always been, I don't know, I've always been kind of hard, right? Kind of, you don't tell another man you love them. You don't get emotional with other guys, that sort of thing. And this man called me up and wanted to thank me for everything that I've done for him and let me know that he loved me as a brother, and that means a lot. And I've had a lot of those guys reach out personally to me, not just at the party that Professor threw for me afterwards, but also just one-on-one and just reaching out and wishing me the best of luck, and more sharing stories, and, telling me how they're going to miss me, and all of that out there on the mat. And this is a group of people that I've only been around for a year and a half. It might be rolling up on a year and 3/4. I don't know. But we make deep impact, and we can make deep relationships with other people when we know where we are heading on our own journeys. Every movement that I've made in the last 5 years has been very purposeful, very intentional. Going to jiu-jitsu, that's part of my vision. And knowing where I was heading allowed me to be around people that helped me in my own vision, and I helped them out in theirs. Being a good leader at work allowed me to build very, very strong relationships. Anyways, this is going to be probably one of the shortest episodes that I've done on this show. But I want to leave you with two things, right? First one is very, very obvious at this point. I want you to be generous with your relationships. Be generous and grateful for those relationships. The second one is make sure that you're intentional with your leadership. The people who you lead pick up on what you do. So be intentional with everything that you do around them. Be intentional with building those relationships. Be intentional about the man or the woman that you are. And don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to build those relationships. Do it intentionally. Anyways, I apologize that this is so short. I hope that it's impactful for you. But I'd like to thank you once again for tuning in to the Fire Forge Leader podcast. I don't know when I'll be back in a studio. Hopefully I'll at least get to be in front of my computer and not out in the car. But if I'm out in the car, so be it. I'm going to keep on rolling with this thing. Anyways, if you got any sort of value out of what I'm bringing here today, please hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on a single episode. And for the love of God, hit that rating button. Give me a review and share this across your social networks. You can find me on all the socials at Fire Forge Leader.
You have just experienced the heat and pressure of the Forge. Remember, words without action are meaningless. Now, after the heat of the forge, shape your thoughts, quench your brain, then put your new tools to use, adding to your leadership. Tune in next week for more lessons from the forge.